Dumped my American fiancé after he called me a gold digger catfish in front of my parents and demanded a traditional Asian wife, but lost it when I asked him to help with chores. A little background: I'm 26 and come from a pretty traditional Asian family. My dad runs a rice wine brewery and my mom helps him out with it. Even though my family is on the conservative side, growing up I saw that my dad never expected my mom to handle all the chores by herself. He always pitched in. My dad always says he can't support the family on his own and she has to work, so he never expects her to do everything around the house. Just like they share the responsibility of earning for our family, they also share the responsibility of taking care of the household. Now, about my fiancé, who's 29. We met on social media. He's an American working in my country. We've been dating for 3 years and engaged for 5 months. He always told me he was looking for a traditional woman and wanted to date with marriage in mind. He said that women who can take care of the household and raise kids are admirable, and I always agreed with him without much thought because honestly, that's an incredible feat. Right. He's working at a small university and I'm currently at a hospital. We saved up enough to buy a house with a little help from my parents, but we haven't moved in together yet because, Asian parents. But anyway, on my dad's birthday last week, we talked about marriage again. He doesn't think his income alone will be enough after we get married, and it's making him feel insecure. So I suggested that I keep working after we tie the knot, and that shouldn't be a problem because we'd be partners. My dad also offered that we take over his brewery, and while I thought the idea was sweet, my fiancé seemed hesitant about it, but he agreed that I should keep my job. That's where the first problem kicked off. I told him that since I have to work, I expect him to help out with the household chores later. After I said that, he got all irritated. He said he'd been telling me he's looking for a traditional woman and that now he felt catfished because I don't want to handle all the housework since I'm still working. Whenever he said he's looking for a traditional spouse, I always thought that meant he'd also be traditional, like being the sole provider so I could focus on the house and kids if we had any. But when I told him that, he called me a gold digger and materialistic like every other woman, even though I never once asked him to be the sole provider. He brought it up first. And let me tell you, I didn't even let him pay for everything when we went out on dates. For example, if he paid for dinner, I'd pay for the coffee and movie. Even my dad offered up his brewery if we wanted to run it to support ourselves. So where's the gold I'm supposed to be digging for here? That's when I actually put the ring down and told him I wanted to break up. I told him he's not traditional enough if he wants a fully traditional wife. I didn't want to deal with someone who could so easily call me a gold digger just because I wanted to share the chores, which hadn't even happened yet, and in front of my parents no less. I can't help but think if he could say something like that in front of my parents before we're even married, then he could say something even worse if we were married and alone. I went home by myself, and he texted me saying he was sorry and didn't mean what he said. He asked to meet up, but I'm just not feeling it. However, when I told my friends about it, most of them said I was a bit too emotional, hasty, and impulsive. They said I might come off as an asshole because I won't even meet him. Now his mom is trying to talk me out of it, saying I'm too old to act like this, and that it's a cultural barrier that led us to this point. So here I am trying to look for a new perspective. Ada comments where Op has replied spot on: if he doesn't give 100%, then he should at least help around the house. But I'm curious, what do your parents think of what he said? Whatever Op, my parents don't really speak English, so they only got bits and pieces of what we said. My father initially felt bad. He thought we fought because he brought up the business, but after I told them the reason, leaving out the gold digger and materialistic remarks, they are totally on my side, and if I want to end it then I should, but they think I should meet him at least once to end our relationship properly. Fleet dancer, be careful when you break up with him. Bring friends or relatives, preferably guys, and meet him in a public place. Men like him can be dangerous when their woman stands up to them. Whatever Op, all right, thanks for your advice. My parents are coming and my father said he's not going to let me meet him alone. Thank you once again. Larsamosa, I just want to say, I really admire your parents and you too, of course. Mad respect for leaving his sorry butt. Hungry_composer 644, he called you a materialistic gold digger who catfished him in front of your parents. You are definitely NTA, and I think you're right to worry that much worse would be coming your way behind closed doors. If you do decide to keep him in your life, please proceed with caution. And his mother is wrong, this isn't a cultural barrier. Her son is a walking red flag. Whatever Op, yes, but my parents don't really speak English, so maybe that's why. I find his remarks even more rude because of that. I don't think I will keep him, and you're absolutely right. It's sad that I only found out when we are already at this point, but I'm glad we haven't gone further. To whom _it_may_ concern. Lamo. He wants a live-in maid/servant that he can have sex with. He wants a servant, not a partner. He wants to have it all. He's showing his true colors here. He wants you to do all the housework and work because he can't afford the traditional life he's dreaming of. He's a jerk and probably a misogynist. He wants a traditional wife, but he's not willing to be a traditional husband. He's an idiot, NTA, frolic detour. He sounds like he's straight out of the Passport Brothers group. Carbonatite. I hope he gets catfished for real and loses a bunch of money to some woman he thought he could exploit and degrade. Update. First of all, I want to thank everyone who took the time to reply and message me this past week. I truly appreciate all the support I got from everyone. It really means a lot to me, especially with everything going on. I want to admit that I also ignored a lot of red flags he showed over the years, just chalking it up to our different cultures and how we were raised. I thought I was being open-minded and flexible, not realizing I should have had a deeper conversation about what I want if our relationship was going to get more serious. A lot of people were kind enough to compliment me on my last post, but I feel like I don't really deserve them because I did a lot of dumb things that led me here. Okay, now, for the real update. Last night, after thinking it over and getting advice from Redditors, friends, and family, I had dinner with him and my dad. Long story short, he still didn't want to end our relationship. He apologized, saying he misspoke and wanted to fix his mistake. He said it was because he got too comfortable with me since I'm not confrontational, and I did help out a lot with his chores, bringing side dishes, helping clean up his place from time to time, etc. So he thought I'd always go along with what he wants. I'm sorry I never took this topic seriously before and didn't make sure we were on the same page when we talked about it. He said I should have told him sooner because then it wouldn't have escalated to this point, and he kept bringing up my bad communication. I know it's partly my fault, but it still stung hearing it from him. Even though he admitted his mistakes and never spoke badly to me before, except for that one time, I still can't get over my distrust of him. I don't know why, but what happened last week just turned me off instantly. So I gave back the ring he gave me and told him I'd return more than half of what we spent on our house. At first, he didn't want the money, saying he wanted to keep trying to win back my trust and stay in touch. But this morning he said I could transfer his money because marriage is off the table now. He tried to stop me from selling the house or telling our mutual friends that the wedding's off. So I just updated almost all of my group chats that I'm single now, and I'm here to tell everyone I'm single because my now ex-fiancé had a red flag so huge, China would be crying with envy. Honestly, I feel like an asshole because it seems like my feelings for him were that shallow all along, but maybe reality hasn't hit me yet, and that's that. Comments, to whom it may concern, good for you. All these guys who want traditional wives without being traditional husbands are ridiculous. They expect you to do all the housework and childcare while also working, while they just want to work outside the home. How lazy and entitled can you be? If anyone's a gold digger, it's him. Good riddance. Carbonatite, it's not traditional unless it comes from the traditional region in France. Otherwise, it's just sparking misogyny. You absolutely did the right thing. What does your dad think? My dad is a typical Japanese father, so we don't chat much since I've grown up, but he's backing my call to call off the engagement. He doesn't say a lot, but he seems pretty happy since he wasn't into it for a while back. Thanks for the kind words. I hope you and everyone around you keep being as kind to you as you are to me right now. It definitely makes me feel better. You gotta go to some serious therapy so it doesn't happen again. You apologize to a guy for not being his partner. Thanks for the response. I didn't apologize for not wanting to be someone's partner, but for not being open and talking about what I want and expect in our relationship. I read in my last post that a lot of folks pointed out that we should have had that convo a long time ago, and I totally agree. That's why I apologized. But I'll also keep working on myself, so thanks for the suggestion. I'll keep it in mind. Did you go 50-50 on the house? Why does he get more? We went 45-45 and my dad chipped in the other 10%. My dad was the one who offered to give him 50% of the shares as an extra safety net. Now he can't complain and has no reason to reach out to me or my family. To catch a sea bream with shrimp, he said. Thanks for the reassurance and I'll work hard to be better. Thanks for your response too. I really appreciate it. Commenter, if the two of you are joint owners and want to cash out, he's entitled to a share of the house's current value, not just what he initially paid. OOP, the house is in my name since it's tough for foreigners to own property in good shape here. Thanks for your concern. Someone called OOP and her family spineless, and I really appreciated her responses. If you don't mind, I don't have a problem with you insulting me, but keep my family out of it. Not everything can be fixed just by being tough and formidable. I don't think it's dumb to know when to stand your ground and how to compromise to avoid future headaches. But I do think it's naive when someone doesn't even consider that there are other ways to solve a problem besides butting heads and fighting. It's stupid when they don't even try to understand the logic behind others' problem-solving methods. If your response is to insult us, that's your right, but it's also my right to ask you to stop. This kind of exchange is called conversation in Japan. I don't know what it's called in your country. Is it another cultural difference? If someone's uncomfortable, should they just suck it up or not start trash talking in the first place? Great. My bad for being so clueless. Giving him more money than he deserved guaranteed me an excuse to cut contact completely. That's how I compromised my decision. The social scene runs differently here because breaking off an engagement or getting divorced will always be a hot topic, and sometimes it affects you on an institutional level. Sometimes it'll mess with your career even more when you're a woman. Yeah, there are some cases where people get fired because they got divorced, because it'll reflect badly on the company's image. Sometimes some companies go as far as giving paid leave and vacation to help fix their employees' married life. I'm not breaking up, I'm canceling an engagement. It's a different deal. You're naive to think every society works like yours and your values apply everywhere without considering their societal circumstances. I'm not excusing it, but I'm not someone so important that I can change them overnight, nor do I want to sacrifice my family and my own reputation. I'm not delusional enough to think I'm the main character. If that's still spineless to you, then sure, I hope you do as well as I'm navigating your life here. Easter Bunny, this guy is looking for a traditional woman while working abroad in Japan. It sounds like he's totally bought into the stereotype of the quiet, submissive Asian woman. She was completely right that to live out his tradwife dreams of having all the housework done and his dinner ready when he walks in the door, he needs to be making enough money so she doesn't have to work. If both partners are working, then obviously both partners will be doing housework and chores too. 41 flavors and thinsome. It's so annoying when guys like this ignore that there are two parts to the traditional marriage equation. I wanted to throw a slipper at his head when she very logically concluded that if she was working more, he had to do more chores. Single sea captain. If she worked, asking him to do more chores made her a bad wife. If she stayed home child-rearing and doing all the chores, asking him to do all the work made her a gold digger. 41 flavors and thinsome. Like dude, his kind doesn't want a traditional marriage. They want indentured servitude. Single sea captain, they want a bangmate who doesn't ask them to be an equal partner in anything or have anything to do with their own children, which they want, but want nothing to do with. 100% they'd cheat and possibly leave after the spark leaves or from shouldering so much of the family burden, too. Honest opinion, he has a bullshit skewed view of Asian women. I'm Asian. For some reason, a lot of Western men think we are this submissive lot that will have a full-time job, be a full-time mom, and still be able to wait on you hand and foot. That's what he meant by traditional wife. He wants a live inmate who also contributes to paying the bills. Fuck him. Incredible platypus in the closet. No, I'm in the cabinet. I've recently come across the 4B movement in South Korea and other Asian feminism, and yeah. I don't think this whole submissive thing is gonna work out the way dudes like this think. Take a bunch of women who are all dealing with the fact that not long ago, generations before us were treated as little more than baby-making machines, and you end up with a lot of things, but definitely not submissive women. I'm really simplifying things here, but I think my point still holds up. Biaselchmaesel, I just want to say that I really appreciate you pointing out that this is trauma that's been passed down through generations and is only now starting to come to light because women can finally talk to each other about it. Snartling, yeah, I think the weight of trauma is something people who aren't marginalized, and especially people like white cis dudes, just don't understand. We're carrying the trauma of our moms. We realize when we run into certain kinds of crap that it's the same stuff they went through. I was talking to my grandma about a doctor ignoring my pain, and she told me stories from the 60s of the same thing happening to her. It builds up into a very real burden that you can't help but feel. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I called off my wedding the night before my best man revealed he got my fiancée pregnant after I spent 5 years with her and paid for our dream wedding. Because I wouldn't want our identity to be disclosed, I'll be using fake names for this post. My name is Jason, and I was in a relationship with my ex-girlfriend, Bella, for 5 years. Bella and I met each other at a unisex salon. To be precise, she worked at the unisex salon as a hairdresser, and the first day I met her was the first day she started working at that salon. She was friendly, and we hit it off right away. I knew I liked her from the start, but I didn't think we'd become so close and fall in love. After visiting the hair salon a few times, I asked for her number, and by this time we were pretty comfortable with each other, so she couldn't say no. You know how the story goes, we went out together, got to know each other, and love happened. And when love happened, we ended up dating for 5 years. The main reason we didn't settle down early was because my ex-girlfriend really messed me up, so I wanted to take things slow with Bella. After 5 years, I figured it was time to make it official, and right after I popped the question, we started planning the wedding. 2 months before our big day, Bella told me she was pregnant, which wasn't in our plans, but I was thrilled. I saw it as the universe giving us an early wedding gift. We had originally planned to wait 3-4 years after getting married before having a kid, so we'd be all set by then. Bella had gone through 2 abortions before, and I didn't want her to go through that again, so we decided to keep the baby. Let me tell you, planning a wedding and a baby at the same time was no walk in the park. It got even tougher because Bella was dead set on having the dream wedding she'd always pictured. She wanted a fancy venue, an expensive dress, and a bunch of other stuff that cost a pretty penny. It's not like I was footing the bill alone. She had been saving up for it too, but I thought it made more sense to use most of our money to get a bigger apartment since we were having a kid and cover other essentials. But she wouldn't budge. She said our wedding was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and we'd have plenty of time to focus on our child later. So after mulling it over, I got where she was coming from, and we went with the wedding she wanted. We booked the venue, picked out the cake she liked after trying a few, and she paid for her dress, hair, and all the other stuff she needed to do with her bridesmaids. Honestly, I was over the moon about marrying the woman I loved, and even happier that she had never cheated on me once in our 5 years together. I thought Bella was the one, the kind of partner who'd stick with me until we were old and gray, but man, was I wrong. So wrong. I was all caught up dreaming about our future when my present was falling apart. I had no clue that while I was busy making her dream wedding come true, pouring all my savings into it, Bella was hooking up with someone I knew. I never would have known if her jealous lover hadn't spilled the beans. The night before our wedding, I swung by home early to drop off some stuff before heading out to my bachelor party, which was kicking off in a couple of hours. Just as I got to the house, my best man called and said he needed to talk to me about something important. We decided to meet at a coffee shop a couple of blocks from the bar where we were supposed to hang out that night. When I got there, I could tell he was all kinds of nervous. As soon as I sat down, he apologized and said he had to get something off his chest. I was worried he was going to back out on me the night before my wedding, but what he actually told me was way worse. My best man looked me straight in the eye and started telling me about his history with Bella. He said he loved her so much and couldn't stand by and watch us get married. At first, I thought it was some kind of prank, and I kept looking around for someone filming us or any of my other buddies. But then he showed me this intimate picture of him and Bella together. My heart just dropped. He even showed me a text Bella had sent him right before he called me, saying something about him sneaking into her hotel room later that night to make her feel good for our wedding. Seeing that message, all my doubts vanished, and I tried to keep it together like a man, but I just couldn't hold back the tears. That wasn't all. He told me he was the father of Bella's baby, but they had planned for her to tell me it was mine so I wouldn't suspect anything and dump her. He also spilled other details that made everything click, and right then, I felt like my whole world froze. My head was buzzing with a million thoughts, and it was tough to wrap my mind around the fact that the woman I loved and had such high hopes for our future was pregnant with my best man's kid, while I was busy making all the wedding arrangements thinking it was my child. I was so furious that if you could see steam coming out of my ears, my best man would have seen it. Once I'd heard enough, I jumped up in a rage, tossed my chair aside, and stormed out. I was trying to keep my cool, but when he chased after me and grabbed my arm, I instinctively punched him in the nose and then peeled out of there. As soon as I got in my car, I called the wedding venue to cancel everything I'd put a deposit on. I somehow made it home without going off the rails, and the moment I walked through the door, I bawled my eyes out like never before. While I was sobbing over Bella's awful betrayal, she called to ask if I'd canceled the wedding because she'd gotten a call from them, and I told her I had. From the sound of my voice, it was clear I'd been crying, so when she asked if everything was okay, I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her I knew everything and the wedding was officially off. It took her a few minutes to get what I was saying, and once she realized I was in the know, she started crying and pleading with me over the phone. All night, she kept calling even after I told her I wanted nothing more to do with her. I didn't stay home that night because I knew she'd show up to beg me. To show how low she'd stoop, she even texted suggesting we should go through with the wedding and figure everything out afterward. She said this because she couldn't handle the embarrassment of canceling our wedding the night before, especially after she'd been bragging to her friends. Our wedding never happened, and to this day, I can't forgive her for what she did to me. Everything I did for her over 5 years just went down the drain like that. I wish you could take heartbreaks and cheating to court because I would have dragged her there. I'd make sure she paid for all the years I wasted on her, the pain she caused me, and everything I put into our relationship. Since then, we haven't seen each other, and she didn't have the guts to face me after I called off the wedding. I moved into the house I rented for us as a surprise, and every day I'm healing and moving forward. To my surprise, after everything went down like that, my best man, who used to be my close friend, tried to reach out to apologize for hurting me and breaking my trust, and he even tried to tell me how their affair started, but I wasn't interested in hearing his side of the story. I told him we couldn't be friends anymore and he had no place in my life. Since then, we haven't been in touch and I'll never talk to him again. Call it childish, but I don't care. Anyway, Bella didn't keep his child. She got an abortion as payback to him for messing up her life, and they're not together anymore. I've learned my lesson and will never love deeply again. Most times, I wish I had put all the resources, investments, and sacrifices I made for our relationship into my own life. It would have been way better than wasting time on a cheating woman. But like they say, as long as you're alive, there's hope.